Hey. Speaking of, well, it's not a joke because a joke has a punchline and you either get it or you don't, but this is still up in the air. Here's the second half of the conundrum we had earlier. Nigel McGuinness is in the ring, and he announces that since Darby Allin is now putting the shot he has at the world title on the line against Moxley, there's going to be no world title match. Well, there was supposed to be no world title match because Danielson just got a plastic bag put over his head, was the victim of attempted murder, which is why that Darby put the title shot on the line against Moxley loosely. But now he's put the cart before the horse, so since Darby's wrestling Moxley, there's going to be no world title match. And then he said, and Danielson's probably in an iron lung anyway, but the world champion should at least compete on the big Grand Slam. And then he keeps talking about Bryan Danielson's success should have been mine. And he's been making comments on the secondary television programs because Danielson and Nigel had a big rivalry in like 2009 and 10 in Ring of Honor. And they are playing off of that, and Nigel's the over-the-top heel now. And so they've been talking about that on the shows that Nigel is on, but does anybody, Brian, on Wednesday night know why that, or even if they've been watching these other shows, have they made it clear why Nigel McGuinness thinks that Bryan Danielson's success should have been his? But instead, Danielson went on to greatness, and Nigel had his career pulled out from under him because of a hepatitis diagnosis, with the WWE rescinding his contract.
I'll go a little further. Unless you were following Ring of Honor then, you may not even know he was a wrestler. Because other than his run as, Desmond Wolfe in TNA,
yeah,
he has only been used as a commentator on NXT and now here. And he's not even on the main show. He's on the Saturday show or one of the weekend shows, and maybe a few matches during the pay-per-view. That's it. So all of a sudden he's out there. They haven't done any video packages. And he used to look different with the hair, obviously.
He was blonde, now it's dark.
But the spiky hair, too.
Well, yes.
But there's a chance that they may be overthinking the amount of people that understand who he is and what his history is.
They are preaching to the choir without bothering to convert any of the heathens, is what you're saying.
There's a lot of heathens.
A lot of heathens out there. But so there's this guy that's never even on Wednesday night saying Bryan Danielson, the world champion, is afraid of me. But Tony Khan isn't afraid, and Nigel shows a contract. I've got this from Tony Khan at Grand Slam. It's going to be Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. Now, and then they have since either put up a graphic or a tweet or whatever. Well, if Bryan Danielson is able to show up or wrestle or whatever, however they phrased it, but wait. So Danielson was going to defend the world title against Darby Allin, but then in the angle, Danielson is bagged and injured. So Moxley goes to Darby and says, since the world champion is indisposed, you can't wrestle him. How about we wrestle for the title shot against the world champion? And Darby agrees. But then Nigel comes out and says, well, the world champion should at least compete, even if he's not defending the title. How can you be cleared? Well, as long as you're not defending a title, go ahead on out there with that broken leg. You'll be fine. What? How? What?
And again, what was achieved with the Moxley turn or the Moxley attack on Danielson? They hit the ring, beat him to the point where he was just carried out of the ring by the team with an oxygen mask. They tried to suffocate him.
Yes.
If you want to beat him and get the match in a couple of weeks, why would you do that? And then he does this whole thing with Darby. He must feel like the biggest idiot of all. All of a sudden, Nigel got the title match.
Well, but also, and somebody that wasn't even there when all that happened to him is the one that gets a match with him on the big show while the other fucking... So anyway,
it's interesting. I mean, the idea of Nigel returning, I know he did the match at Wembley, but him against Danielson, not only is that the storied match, but that was a pretty physical feud. I mean, it was at times uncomfortable with some of the headbutts and stuff.
yeah.
What are they going to do? Danielson's not what he was then, and he has to worry about all sorts of issues health-wise. And Nigel, I know he's had a lot of time off, but there's good and bad to that.
Well,